Super. Hey, Gord,
Okay,
on the line. We're ready, Gary?
we're all set and we are recording.
Okay, cool. We'll get going then. Gary, you might know the answer to this as well. I don't want to misspeak, but Infor, at TUG or around about that time had released some information about the enhancement request system and a change to it, and that requests that didn't meet a minimum number of endorsements were basically going to get kicked aside. Do you remember what that number was? Was it 10 or 15?
It was 10, and they're actually in discussions about whether that's the right number or not. It may go a little bit lower. I certainly don't think it's going to go higher.
Okay. All right. That's what I had in my notes, but thank you for that. Okay. So, yeah, we're just going to dive right in. We've done this in the past, and if you go to the TUG YouTube site or the TUG site, you see that there's a couple webinars in history where we did this and went over previous enhancement requests. And you may not believe this, but the last time we did this was over a year ago. So we were planning on doing it monthly or every other month, and there had only been a couple enhancement requests that got put in over the 6 or 9 months after the last webinar we had. But now there have been a flurry, thanks to many of you that I see are on this webinar. So thank you for doing that. This truly is, if you don't know and you don't understand what the enhancement request system is, this is our way to make changes to the software that are not unique to our own system. So if you don't want a modification, if you believe this should be in the standard product, you submit an enhancement request, and then you promote that, and you promote that through your peers, through the TUG community site. You post it out there and say, I came up with this great idea. We want this, that, and the other changed in the software because it makes more sense. Please go vote on it. And like you just heard us talking about, it needs to hit at least a minimum number of endorsements for Infor to consider it. But then they're going to take those enhancement requests and hopefully put them in the standard code so we get that functionality and we get it without any modifications. So first things first, how do I get there? This is the Infor Extreme site. Hopefully you know how to find that. It's just inforextreme.com, and you should have a login. If you do not, you can request one from Infor. Anyone at your company should be able to get a login. This is where you could find documentation. You could submit support tickets, and also you can get to what we're talking about today, and that is under the Resources tab here. There's a link for the enhancement request system. That's going to open up this guy right here. And if anyone has any trouble, I blew this up a little bit, but if anyone's having any trouble seeing this, go ahead and just throw something in the chat or Q&A panel. This is too small, can't see it, or what have you. But we'll get the lay of the land here a little bit, and that is you'll see all the enhancement requests that anyone has put in here for any software or module that you are licensed for. So if your company does not have TWL, you're just thinking about getting TWL, you're not licensed for it yet, you're not going to see enhancement requests for that. If you don't have Mingle, if you don't have anything else, and that's why you're not going to see different industries as well, because Infor is using this same enhancement request system across the globe and across all industries. Everyone, not just distribution, is using this. So we're going to be looking at just TWL today. I didn't see anyone, no one notified us that they were using a different warehouse management system with Infor. So we're going to review just TWL. And there's two groups that we need to look at. There's two buckets in here, and they're a little bit confusing because they may or may not be web related, and folks may have actually submitted them under the wrong group as well. So you really want to check both. There's TWL Total Warehouse Logistics, and there's TWL Total Warehouse Logistics Web UI. And again, we should be looking at both of these. So here's good old plain Jane TWL, and I have a note here, 28.169. This is the last one. Nope, this is where we want to start. We did 26.203 last time. So you'll see here, some of these are in blue and some of them are no longer in blue. So what does that mean? That means I have looked at these. So it's blue, meaning it's new to me. new here in the column means it's a new request. Infor hasn't looked at it yet, but new to me is blue. Once I've looked at it, it's going to turn black here. Okay, so we'll walk through the first one slowly, and we're going to talk about how we use this system and how you properly endorse, reject, or acknowledge an enhancement request. And then we'll pick up the pace a little bit, and we're just going to go through and explain what all these mean. Hopefully I can do that well enough for everyone to understand. And then we encourage you to follow along right now. So please take this opportunity to log in. If you have access, log in and view along with us, and then you can vote while we're going through them. I know one of the hardest things here is to find the time to do this. You're not setting aside time in your schedule likely to come review enhancement requests, but setting aside an hour a week or an hour a month or something, or perhaps just when we do these webinars would be a good catch-all to get everyone on here reviewing and voting on these. So 28169 is where we're going to start. And this is what we're going to see here. Up at the top is our voting. Let me get my little... I don't know how to find it apparently. Where's my drawing skills? There it is. Spotlight. So here's where I'm going to vote. And my choices are endorse, reject, or acknowledge. And those specifically mean endorse. This is a great idea. I think we should do it. Please put it in the software. I like what you're saying. Reject doesn't necessarily mean I think this is a bad idea. It could be a great idea, but the way that you have explained it or outlined it, or the way that you're suggesting the functionality be changed, is going to break something for me. It's gonna cause a problem for the way that I use this software or my business operates, and we need to resolve that. So maybe it's 99% correct. We need to tweak this one little thing. You have an opportunity here in the explanation to say why you are rejecting it. If you fix this, or if you make it a parameter instead of a hard-coded and it's basically not an option, then it works for me. Or you can just acknowledge it, which is basically, I've reviewed this and I think it's a good idea. It's not really going to do anything for me, so I'm not really putting my company's weight behind this this enhancement request. I would rather Infor perhaps spend their development hours on something else, and those are the ones I'm going to endorse. Okie doke? So escape turns that guy off. Okay, so this one is from Mac and Mac, and what they have said is we actually have a mod that does this function here. You can scan the item in most of the screens. So rather than what you're used to in the standard functionality, I go to the bin, I scan the item, and then it asks you to pick 10 and you enter the quantity of 10. You can just scan it 10 times, beep, 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 like at a grocery store, or like they say at Home Depot. You set the quantity ahead of time and scan it in as a 10-pack, or you can just scan repeatedly and it would increment by that quantity as you've scanned them. So they outlined the mod that does this. They said, just please put this in standard. We think this is a great idea. And we have a couple folks that have acknowledged, one that has endorsed, and then Hannah from Infor has already said, oh, we've accepted this. We're planning to do it at some point, and we'll assign a delivery date at that time. Okay, so if I had done my job on time, I would have come and read this when it was submitted, and I would have said, endorse. This is great functionality for some businesses. Should be standard. Bam. There we go. Let me get this panel out of the way here. And that's that. So I'm going to come back to the list. You can arrow through them, and we'll figure out on the next one here which direction we have to go, if we go forward or backward. The numbers should be going up. So that's the one we did. 28264 is the next one. And here, the Reynolds company is saying, again, we have a mod that does this, but we think it should be standard. And this is really interesting functionality here, where they're in a hub and spoke environment, and we really want a warehouse that's taking the material as a stopping point before being delivered to the end user to be the one processing the order. The way it is without this functionality, the material is shipping from the spoke to the hub and then back out and being delivered to the customer, or vice versa. And a leg of that journey is not really tracked in the software. We're just we're pretending it gets delivered to the customer directly, but it's not. It's stopping at one of our facilities first. And that can create challenges with figuring out what fits on trucks and making sure stuff gets on the right truck, because you're not scanning, confirming any of that that's getting done. It's all paper, it's all manual. So let's do it in the software. And I think this is great too. $28,264. And I think we want to go this way. While we're waiting for this to load, because it is kind of slow, and I swear it's not my computer. We want feedback on this webinar as well. We're following the format that we had done in the past. It was basically me going through these and explaining the functionality in case folks didn't get it. I think that was kind of half of the intent of this webinar. The other half was what I had mentioned before, kind of forcing you to dedicate the time to do this. And like you're seeing myself, I haven't come on here and voted on anything either. So this is making us find the time to do it. But if you have suggestions on what else we should add or change about this webinar, please do throw it in the Q&A or email Gary or myself or Gord. Okay, 29.821. This comes from Rampart. When you're in the all view, you cannot select multiple orders and drop them in one picking wave. As soon as the second order is selected, the drop button is deactivated, right? So why are they using the all view? Likely because there are some filters in the all view that are not in the undropped view. So they're using that all view, and the workaround is a pain in the butt. You got to write down a whole bunch of stuff and switch and all this, that, and the other. There's got to be better functionality. So there's a couple that have acknowledged here, and Gilbert is asking, why are you using all instead of undropped? So that's likely exactly why. This has already been accepted, so I don't think my comments are really going to impact anything here. But what I'm going to do is suggest perhaps we add more filters, those you are using in all, to the undropped option. Righto. Moving on. And we're going to go on this for about 45 minutes. That's the plan. We'll get through as many as we can. Like I had said, you guys have been doing a great job. There's a flurry of them in here, so maybe we won't get through all of them. But then hopefully next month or the month after, we can just do this again. Okay, 33.116 comes from Virginia Air. Ability to view who's picking, receiving an order via their login initials. So sometimes there's multiple people picking an order. A session locks up, let's say, and a user needs to be kicked out of picking. How do we know who that person was? We need a way to view everyone by login who was picking an order. So provide the proposed solution is to provide a view, some way to see who is picking an order or who's in a PO. And I know there are actually a couple users out there, a couple companies out there that have something like this functionality in a modification, where you might be in a PO and you're warned before closing the RT, let's say, that someone else is in it. But I totally agree, and this is a pain point during picking as well. If folks get confused and they accidentally select the same wave and they don't know they're picking with someone else, it would be great to see someone else is actively using this, have that view in the bottom of the screen or something like that. Super duper. And I didn't look. Did Hannah? Hannah didn't respond yet to this one. And we'll touch on one other piece of functionality in here, and that is hopefully we'll run into something that I can reject, but we'll pretend on this one if we don't. So another one from Virginia Air. Ability to see customer name or ship to warehouse when in picking mode. If you've ever done any picking in TWL, you know that you don't see this information when you're in the actual picking screen. All you see is this order number, this wave number, this pick ID, this product bin, what have you. You don't actually know who, what customer, or which one of your branches you are picking for. And so we have a bunch of workarounds. Their workaround is they walk up front to verify the information before picking. I know a lot of you are using things like the ship via to indicate who you're picking. So, just an idea to the Virginia Air folks, instead of it saying our truck or WT in the ship via, we would say branch A, branch B, branch C as the ship vias. So the users would know based on the ship via what store they're picking for. Customer, it obviously gets a lot more complicated. You're not going to create a ship via for every single one. But for transfers anyway, that's a decent workaround. So proposed solution, give us this info on there. Totally agree. And no response from Infor yet. So let's say I didn't like this and I wanted to reject it. After I did that and I submitted and saved this, I'm going to be marked as a nope, that's only if you endorse. I guess it's not if you reject. So that's an enhancement request for the enhancement request system. Follow even if you reject. And yes, you can enter an enhancement request for the enhancement request system as well. So this software needs enhancements also, and you're definitely welcome to submit enhancement requests for that. So what I was going to say is, I thought the functionality was there. If we reject this, I could say, you know what, Stephen, I don't care for this, because if you add a column in there, there's already so little real estate that you're likely going to take up some other information that I need. I'm really concerned about that. So I'm going to reject this until I hear more information about how you're going to keep everything currently on the screen while adding even more data to it. Then once that change has been made, Stephen says, oh, this, that, and the other, we're going to reduce the font, or you don't actually need this info, or blah, blah, blah. Here's a screenshot of how it's going to look. I can come back and change my mind. Okay, Stephen, that's great. I love it now. That's wonderful. I'm going to change my reject to an endorse. Okay. So this is not a one-time thing. Once you set it, it's not over with. You can come back into the same enhancement request and change your mind. Wave selection, whoops, or in the pick line screen itself. That's where I feel most folks want it when they're performing the actual picks. Because if you're picking by wave, you might be bouncing around in and out of different orders. You might be picking by zone. You're picking multiple orders at the same time. You really need to know while in the pick who you're picking for. All right, 33327. Becky has said this has already been approved. December 2019 is the timeline. So what are we doing? Turtle and Hughes says auto lot assignment was added as an enhancement for paper warehouses, but was not added to TWL. Manually assign lots and print labels. There's not a lot of explanation here, so I'm not totally sure. I'm not sure if anyone from Turtle and Hughes is on, and they can throw something in the Q&A panel, or we could take them off mute and they could explain. But if you are or not using lots anyway, as I understand it, the biggest fault of lot control, which is different than serialized control, is someone in sales may enter a lot that they request. I want lot A, but TWL has its own inventory allocation, and it may decide based on other criteria it would be more appropriate because what's in the primary picking location or what's older or something like that is more appropriate to pick, and it would assign you to pick from lot B, right? And so sales and the customer ultimately would not get what they had requested. And Patrick says there's a subscribe button at the top you could click if you wanted to be notified regarding reject votes. Let's go take a look, see at that. Right on, you can subscribe.
Excuse me, Andy.
Yeah.
It's Gord speaking. I just wanted to make a comment. You touched on something there, and I'll just say something general about it. And that was, you were trying to get information from the description, the workaround, the proposed solution. And when Tony Kennedy spoke on behalf of Infor at TUG, she wanted to make a few things clear to folks about the ERS approach, and that the description's really the problem, and a problem well described is, half solved type notion. So sometimes that description can be not done the right way, and then you probably can't err too much with too much information, but certainly clarity is key, and I guess to some degree concise too. So just a tip overall that she wanted everybody to be aware of is you'll have a much better shot at endorsements if the best information can be there in terms of describing the problem, if there's a workaround that, and then any proposed solution.
Agree. Yeah, no, that's great input, and really description, maybe that box should be relabeled problem. So, I
think so.
Just because the lot assignment wasn't added to TWL, who cares? What does that mean? What problem is this? Is it something like I just described, where sales has requested a specific lot and then we end up shipping a different lot? That is a problem, right? That's a big problem potentially, especially if it was something like medical supplies, right? So that's a problem. The workaround, as I understand it, is your opportunity to explain how much of a pain in the butt this is. So because this problem exists, this is our workaround. We have to spend hours and hours every single day doing all this double and triple checking this, that, and the other, because this simple functionality does not exist in the software. So can you please add it? And lastly, along the same lines of Gord's comments here, the proposed solution is not necessarily what Infor is going to do, or it may not look anything like what Infor is going to do. They have said multiple times, it's ultimately up to them. So they'll read your suggestions, they'll consider what the community has to offer, but they need to look at the big picture, what all users of TWL would want, where the future of the industry, both distribution and Infor software is headed, and they will decide the functionality and the code to make that happen. So again, kind of back to what Gord was saying, the biggest bang for your buck is to elaborate on the description, to outline the problem component, to make sure everyone understands how much of a pain, how much money this is costing you, or it's losing you customers, or you need 20 more people working for you because of this problem, and it should sell itself. Good deal. Okay. So this has already been approved, so I would assume that Becky has all the details on this, but I will do that. All right. Out of complete paranoia in the system not working properly, I'm going to go back to the list and make sure we aren't skipping anything. And you should see these blue ones turn black because we looked at them, and they sure are. Good deal. Okay, so we've got a handful more left in TWL, and then we have the web portion, and there's a bunch in there. So I think we're doing a good pace so far. If anyone, again, has any questions or comments, go ahead and throw them into the Q&A panel. Patrick, thank you again for pointing out that subscribe button at the top. Okay, 35173. Virginia Air, tearing it up, making requests. Ability to select or type in an item and then have a sub-menu displaying the various functions would allow our warehouse staff to operate faster. For example, if we want to locate an item, we must choose 882. They could do 92, which is 2 keystrokes instead of 3, but provide an item selection with submenus. So instead of going to the menu and then putting in the product, we want to start with the product. Product ABC, maybe I have a box in front of me and I'm going to scan it. And what would you like to do with this information? I would like to do a location inquiry. I would like to perform receiving for it. I would like to perform a stock move. I would like to learn more information about this. I'm going to acknowledge this one. And hopefully someone can back me up. That is, oh, I should have put, what am I doing? 9.2 is locate item, right? Even side note, 9.2 is locate item. On your, I don't think 8.8.2 is a locate item. I don't know what that is. Okay. Move on to the next one. $35,653. Lansing Building Products. And I haven't been pointing this out along the line. I've been kind of paying attention to the version down here. And for the most part, they've all been 6 or 6 something. So those have definitely been in the right bucket that were in the plain Jane TWL logistics, not web. Now this one I question because it's version 11. However, maybe they mention in here and they don't, but I'm pretty positive these folks are not on web. They're on GUI still. So I think this is in the right bucket. So even though it's a very current version, it's not web specific. So it goes in the plain TWL bucket. And maybe at some point none of this matters and we should just have one TWL bucket and we can just say if it's a web problem or not. Okay, so we're on this version. We're having issues with printing labels that use lots. It's printing 1 label per lot, but it is printing 1 label per lot, but we need to print 1 label. For example, this item has 25 lots. When printing 1 item label, we get 25 labels printed. It's a way to turn this off so we only get 1 label, not waste 24 labels. Really like an additional prompt when printing lot control items. Nope, we just throw some labels out. Add a prompt. I kind of want to see this happen. I wonder what label are you printing from RF or TWL online? Because I'm fairly certain you could print a couple different label options and only get 1. But, however, there are a number of to label printing by asking how many. Okay. I need to see more info on that before I get behind it.
Andy, on that last one, I got into my TWL and sure enough, 8.8.2 does get you there, as does your 9.2.
Thank you much for checking that. Cool.
So there is a step saved for them right out of the gate.
33% labor savings. We just achieved.
There you go.
36,218. So a lot of folks behind this one, and Infor has already accepted it, but we're going to go through it anyway. Reynolds Company, current version. Now this is probably a web request here, but either way. Add line item view to web UI as it is in GUI. We create waves based on product type and quantity ordered. Line item grid allows us to quickly blah, blah, blah. In web, we're having to drill into multiple screens. So I assume this means in the order manager. Yes, yes, yes. Doesn't specifically say that. I think that's a great point. Can we add screenshots or attachments. I can't remember if that is part of this. You can add attachments. Yeah, you sure can. I don't think they're going to be in here. You're going to have to click on them to see them. But screenshots, having done a lot of troubleshooting personally, screenshots are amazingly helpful because I might think I know what you're talking about here, but if you have a screenshot and you circle, with a red marker what the problem is, that makes it a whole lot easier to understand. Also, super valuable for SX.e, but likewise also for TWL to identify the module where it is. I'm in ICSW and I'm in the whatever tab, the costs or replenishment, or I'm in TWL and I'm in the item master view. Explaining that again would be a lot easier for all of us to read through these and understand exactly what you're talking about. Either way, Infor has said, yes, we will do this. My personal feelings on this one are that this should not be an enhancement request because we were told Web UI would have the same functionality, perhaps more than GUI, but it sounds like here we have lost some functionality. So I'd say that's a bug. You didn't carry over some function that used to be there. 36247, Virginia Air again. Thank you so much for doing this. And here's the problem. When we transfer an item that's managed by serial to another warehouse, we have to scan the serial number for the paperwork. Then when that item is sold to a customer or transferred to another, we're unable to do so until we remove the serial number from the system first. If we had the ability to remove serial number, it'd be a huge time saver. If we had the ability to turn off the requirement based on the type of transaction, that would be a big help. I don't know what this means. They have to open tickets to scrub them. Has been removed from. Is anyone from Virginia Air on by chance? So we transfer a unit with a serial number, but we're not receiving serial numbers in that other warehouse, and that is the problem. There's definitely some issues with serial numbers where you may sell a serial number out of one branch, and then the customer, because you're regional and have a bunch of branches in the area, they return that unit to a different one, and that causes problems. Okay. And no one raised their hand or anything. I didn't see, so I don't think Virginia Air is on. We'll move on to the next one. I'm sorry for the long pauses and moments of silence. I know that makes a webinar boring. I'll try to continue to talk and add fun color commentary as we make our way through. 36668. A few endorsements. Reynolds Company. Super new version. Currently, TWL only allows you to set the printer at the carrier level. If we have packing stations, we want packing slips to print out by those packers rather than the carrier, right? 6 people are all packing orders for UPS or FedEx. It's a hot mess. Currently using a mod, which many of you are. If you have involved packing operation, this is definitely super helpful. We have a few endorsements, but I think we should have many more, and there's no comment from Infor yet, so this definitely needs to be done. So please vote on that one. If you use packing or you want to take pity on those who do, they either have a modification that allows them to change the printer that packing lists are sent to by packing station, or they have one printer and all the poor souls at packing are sorting through packing slips all day long trying to find the one that they just printed. Yep. All right. We don't want that. We want TWL web. And we're at 36, so we got 9 more minutes. There's a handful to do in here. I think we'll be okay. Web, start at 26,370. That's this guy. All right, we got like 10 to go through. I don't think we'll be able to do all 10. We'll try our best. So this has been accepted already. This is from Tom Somerville. 1 endorsement, but anyway, Infor accepted it already. Receiving of large orders by ASN. You need multiple people working across multiple days. Certain items may have been needed to fill critical orders. You're working on this for many days. You don't close the receipt in TWL. We're obviously not notifying SX.e that material is available. So create something to allow us to partially close the ASN and not corrupt everything else. Absolutely. And it's already going to happen anyway, but absolutely. Not a period and a comma. Great. For those of you not using ASNs or not familiar with that is, that's a way to get both a notification from your supplier and the ability to combine multiple POs or even parts of multiple POs. So you may have 5 POs come in from a vendor, and if you're using standard functionality, you can do item receiving, or you could do the pack list receiving in TWL, but you would combine everything on those. If you had, pardon me, I'm supposed to be on Do Not Disturb. If you had an ASN, you'd have all 5 of those POs combined into one RT, but you would only have the lines and the quantities that were supposed to be shipped. So you wouldn't have to deal with, the same product was on multiple POs and the quantity was 500 on each and they only shipped you 300. Which one does it belong to? The ASN would take care of all that for you. Okay, 27,264. This has been deferred by Infor already, even though we have 5 endorsements. And this is from Transit. Replenishment menus do not include unit of measure. Make all replenishments include unit of measure. So it says been accepted, but it's been pushed to deferred. I don't understand what that means, why it's accepted and deferred. Yeah, the unit of measure, right on with Tom's comment here. The unit of measure should be present anywhere that a quantity exists. Agree. To save time, I'm not even going to put periods in there anymore. All right, let's get through a couple more. Okay, 32558. Transit also. We've got a couple acknowledgments, a couple endorsements. When creating cycle count and assigning to an employee, another employee can go in and do the counts even if it's not assigned to that person. Doesn't really honor this setting in these functions. Count wave by wave when assigning waves to employees. This is more time consuming. The user might go back and forth depending on counts. Yeah, they might be bouncing all over. So when counting by zone, it should honor the employee assignment and display an E to show the count has been assigned to him, or an R could also be used to show it's restricted. So basically, honoring that functionality no matter how you get to the cycle count. If it's been assigned to someone else, that means it's not for you. No matter how you try and get into that cycle count, it should tell you this is not for you. Can't argue with that. Great idea. All right. I firmly believe we can do 2 more. 32742. Infor themselves. I have never seen that before. I don't know if they did that or a user put this in here. TWL signature capture capability. Yes. Yes, so to do it in TWL, if you're doing signature capture right now from your trucks, you're probably using something like Cyan or DQ or something like that. So those are third-party solutions. If this is a normal part of operating a distribution company, you have trucks and you go out and deliver stuff to your customers. Sounds like distribution. Sounds like wholesale distribution, right? So why isn't that just baked into the product itself? So can we do this, please? It's been accepted, but marked as deferred. Great idea. We've been asking for this. We've been asking for this for a while. Party solutions for this. I mean, they have signature capture and SX.e at the counter. We have signature capture in the warehouse. All right, last one. Unless we only have one more, and then we'll do that one too. What happened? Oh, I've already looked at this one. Look at me. 33,414. We've hit 10 endorsements on this. I've already endorsed it. This is from Transit also. When canceling an order and it's in picked or packed, the user has to do undo options. This brings order to open stage. You put the material back. It asks you where you want it to go. If the order has to be canceled, you got to undrop it. Then you got to cancel it in SX or zero ship it. We would definitely recommend that you cancel it in SX rather than putting it zero ship from TWL. Is just going to put it on Z hold. There can be timing issues where someone can get into the order and start picking it before you even get to do those other steps. So if you're unpicking, how about we just ask them if they want to undrop it when they're done? So basically do an order manager function from the RF, which is a fantastic idea. And now that we're talking about this, why don't we allow more order manager functions from the RF? A picker should be able to call for a wave to be dropped to them. Someone enter that enhancement request. I like that idea. All right, truly last one, 34,155. Enter serial numbers for WT for destination warehouse. So first supply says we have products that are serialized in one warehouse, not in another. If we ship a DO out of a non-serialized warehouse on behalf of one that is serialized, process is more difficult than it should be. The WT will not auto ship the tied order because the serial number is not present. So check the destination warehouse. If the destination warehouse needs a serial number, then the shipping warehouse, even if they're not serialized, should handle this, should capture the value somehow, then link them together. Sounds like a good idea to me. All right.
One thing I'll mention, just real quick, this is Gord, is that this was a great eye-opener for me, and I did some endorsing and acknowledging through the process. And I think for sure, if we keep up with this, it won't be a mountain. It can be more of a molehill, but hopefully there'll be lots of good fodder continue. So thanks, Andy, for making it happen, and hopefully people benefited like I did, who haven't maybe been as involved in this up to this point. And it's obvious that everybody has a role in order for it to work for the collective.
Thanks, Gord. Yeah, my pleasure to do this. And yeah, I would love to do this more frequently and not for 45 minutes, maybe for like 20 or 30. I know it's hard to get away for 45 minutes or an hour. So we have 2 left to go. I think we went through like 20 or so. I'll review this. I'll check on it occasionally and see how many more we have. If we're going to do this a month from now or 2 months from now and only have 10 to go through, then I think we can be on a webinar for a much shorter amount of time. And that's ideal, I think, for everyone. So keep putting them in here, though. This is exactly what we want to do, and get those endorsements applied. The numbers look like they're increasing, so I think you're all doing your part. Thank you for doing that today, and thank you for coming to the webinar. Again, we recorded this, so we will share it shortly, and we'll pass that out to you guys. And if you have any questions, Gord, myself, Gary, you can send to any of us. We want to make this the best use of your time. So please give us some feedback, what you like, what you don't like about this. Thank you all again. Take care.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye-bye.